Değerli konuklar,
Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to welcome you all. So, we are now live at Collective House and also we are online. And for such a long time, we have not come together face to face. We are very excited for both reasons because of, being with you here and also the launch of this great project, the launch of this great CoinDesk project. So without further ado, we have a great speaker and I'm going to take you through today. So in a minute, we are going to be having a lovely chat with Sebastian, one of the founding partners of Sandbox. And then we're going to have the questions for Sebastian. And for our online audience, viewers, please do share your questions and I will do my best to follow them. And then, in order to have a better understanding of the ecosystem, we're going to have a short panel and the Arslan Kieran, the Turkish regional manager, is going to act as the moderator. So without further ado, I'm going to now, with your permission, I'm going to switch to English and please choose your channel.
great pleasure and honor for me to host a very distinguished guest today, Sebastian Borge, the co-founder of the Sandbox. Sebastian, please join me on the stage.
Malaba. Malaba, everyone. Thank you.
So, how was Cappadocia?
It was really interesting. It's my first time here in Turkey. I just arrived on Sunday, and on this short amount of time, I got the chance to learn more about the culture of this country, to meet some of the actors who want to build this ecosystem and enter Sandbox, and discover like a very beautiful place, have like a great unique moment that I shared with some of our community members. And I think that inspired us as well to what we like to bring into each of the experience in the metaverse.
I'm sure you have some clues about what kind of experiences can you derive from this experience here in Turkey. We will tap into that in a short while, but let's kick off with a very broad question, Sebastian. What I'm going to do today is to shoot a couple of broad questions to you, and then I will leave the stage to the audience and our online audience as well. I'm sure they have a lot of questions in details. So we have been writing a lot about Metaverse recently for the last couple of years in many entities of press. It is a buzzword. So let's start with the definition. How do you define the Metaverse and why are we talking about Metaverse a lot these days?
All right. So our definition of the metaverse is really this myriad of virtual worlds, which every one of us can access through an avatar. That avatar that's a 3D representation of ourselves. And the kind of experience that we'll be able to access will be more interactive, more social, more immersive, more fun, thanks to technology. Unlike what we've seen before in terms of virtual worlds, some of them we've known for more than 25 years already, like Second Life, etc.
Right.
One key main difference in the metaverse is the notion of like users will finally be able to own their digital identity through that avatar, own their digital assets such as wearable, game items, content, equipment, virtual land, virtual house, as well as their currency. And they'll be able to own that thanks to blockchain technology and NFTs. And through that, they'll be able to use those digital assets across any other decentralized virtual world, meaning that they are no longer locked into one single platform that tries to control their data, their accounts, and more.
Right. So we have been talking about some different metaverses, and the Sandbox is one of the leading ones amongst those. So tell us what makes you different. What is the differentiating factors for the Sandbox?
So Sandbox just celebrated about 10 years today, by the way.
Wow.
So
It's also
it's
one of the first, right?
yeah, we first launched on mobile back in 2011,
11.
a game where users could actually make 2D pixelated world and share them online. It's always been what's driving us, like how do we turn players into creators? And ultimately, that game had a lot of success. 40 million installs, 70 million player-made creation, but also something that frustrated a lot our team and myself, which was we weren't able to share with the users who spend time with that game a certain revenue through the value they contributed by creating content and bringing users, bringing revenue to our platform. At the end of 2017, we discovered about blockchain technology, NFTs, and we were really struck by the possibilities that NFT offered. Enabling anyone to make their NFTs, again, this idea that anyone could create their digital asset, and using it to let them own and monetize the content they create into a virtual world, was actually the major disruption that led us to build Sandbox. We spent now almost 4 years building Sandbox, no longer as a game, no longer as a 2D game on mobile. It became a full platform with many creation tools, a 3D editor, a marketplace, a game maker that's no code, the avatar and multiplayer solution, and the game clients part. And I think what really differentiates us is already like those 10 years of experience in gaming, which means that we've learned about what makes experience fun, what makes people come back into experience, not just come once. The idea that the NFTs in Sandbox, all those digital assets, they need to have a real utility. So offering those possibilities via our tool and letting anyone create content and use them with the game maker is one utility. The fact that also like it became a virtual world with a map, and with that map, and I guess I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that, people can become virtual neighbors and use that to create together more environments, more experiences as well, has been really strong and deeply rooted into what Sandbox is today. And ultimately as well, the fact that beyond user-generated content, we also have brought many brands, more than 300 major brands in entertainment, in fashion, in lifestyle, in gaming, in music.
Even Atari is back with you, right?
Atari is back, Ubisoft is here, Adidas, Gucci, Warner Music, The Walking Dead, Snoop Dogg, with many music artists. But we have also done so being very attached to create the metaverse as a space of culture and a space where anyone, no matter where they are in the world, they have something that drives them into the metaverse, into that new opportunity. And that means like we've put a lot of effort to be as global, as local as possible. So we have brands from Korea, brands from Japan, brands from Dubai, and today I'm working with my team here in Turkey to create also the Turkeyverse, which will bring the best of the culture, the lifestyle, the fashion, the drama, the gaming from here into the metaverse.
Okay, you have been in Turkey for a while, and I know you have done a lot of meetings here. So what is the magnitude of the interest from the brands here in Turkey to Turkeyverse, as you call?
I think like what's been helpful is like we've already shown the way. We have already delivered and launched some alpha season where users have been able to engage, to play, to be rewarded through play and earn for their engagement. They were able to discover a little bit all the possibilities that the metaverse has to offer them. And that's been inspiring more and more brands towards those possibilities. They are now more open towards this NFT culture. They understand that we have a long-term goal, like we are not just here to launch NFTs with just to generate revenue on a short-term basis, but to give value to their loyal fans, to create space of experiences, to offer like more creative environment for their community through the user-generated content tools, and leverage all of that platform and all this global audience and the technological possibilities the metaverse has to define almost a new format of entertainment.
Right. When you listen to the critics, one of the things that they highlight is that it is not possible yet in metaverse to create experiences that are similar to the real life experiences. So how mature is the technology in terms of creating immersive experiences in the digital world?
if I go back to the definition of metaverse, like this myriad of virtual world, you will have a great diversity of kind of experience, a great diversity of even metaverses platform. Some of them will be more focused toward VR and AR, some will be web-based, some mobile-based, and some are more attached to try to reproduce the reality aesthetically with almost what we call the meta-human, this like cinematographic reproduction of like us as human toward like high-end AAA kind of graphics. I think Sandbox has chosen a quite different way, and Sandbox keeps evolving of what Sandbox was like 10 years ago, 2 years ago, today, or will be. It's quite different. But we chose voxels as a way of representation because it's much more accessible, and it's really important, like the accessibility. Anyone should be able to create the content in the metaverse. Voxel is almost like digital Lego, so you cannot create without reading a user manual, but still it provides this level of granularity, so you can make both simple things to very advanced things. It's scalable as well, meaning like, if you think about it, the metaverse at the beginning, it's very empty. Like we need to create everything from scratch. 99% of the metaverse will actually be built by users. And to achieve producing fast and at scale, we need to provide ways to create that, like follow that. And the meta-human realistic, it's almost like movie production. Only professional can do it. It's very costly. It doesn't run on like low-end devices. It's quite inaccessible, in fact. So we are very far. If we aim for the metaverse to be that, almost like that science fiction projection from Ready Player One movie, maybe in 10 years that will change. But what we need right now today is focus on like accessibility and creativity. And I believe Sandbox provide both of them. And we've already seen thousands of artists that create amazing content with our tools. We've seen a growing community and ecosystem of builder studios from gaming background, but not only. Like we have really a lot of new people who never made video games before and now turn into their business. They hired other people. Like Metaverse is going to drive millions of jobs. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Good to hear that.
And they are successful already building those experiences. And those experiences, they are accessible. Like we launched 2 alpha seasons, so the world has seen already some of the potential, engage with it, have fun with it, stream it, etc. So,
just give us a little bit of glimpse about what a regular day is in the Sandbox for an individual or for a brand. What is the daily activities we can do there?
So, what's interesting is like there's not just one kind of experience you're going to see in Sandbox. We're really working towards offering a great diversity of content, whether it will be like fashion shows, art galleries, museum, virtual concerts, and we'll be launching the first virtual concert with Snoop Dogg soon.
I have seen Elvis Presley video that you have just published on Twitter. Elvis Presley is back, I guess, huh?
Well, that was an interesting experimentation for sure, like where we combine voxel representation, AR, and then bridge a little bit between physical world and virtual world. We're always looking at how to use that technology creatively.
It's very experimental, right?
Yes. But maybe that will drive, like if users like it, maybe putting that in the hands of creators, it will become the next big thing in the metaverse. And of course, gaming experiences. And gaming, it's already such a broad space by itself. You can have like a parkour game, running, casual, fighting, RPG, exploration, narration game, etc. At the end of the day, and what also makes Sandbox quite different is like when you spend time as a user at Sandbox, you choose to engage into a land or an experience. Or when you create content in Sandbox and in the metaverse in general, you should be rewarded for the value you bring to that world, to that platform. And that's not the case when you look at other more centralized platform, like we mentioned before. And we're very attached that the value goes first and foremost toward those creators, toward those users who bring life into those experiences. through the use of NFTs, that are those digital assets that they can own, they can use across many worlds, they can sell on marketplaces, and they can then turn into a revenue stream for some of them, and also be rewarded for like spending time into those experiences, again with the use of NFTs and token, which mean that, and that's quite interesting, if you play a game or if you learn a new skill, you educate yourself, you get rewarded for that. So your time becomes valuable in the metaverse, and it's a whole new paradigm of thinking versus what we've seen before in traditional gaming and entertainment industry. And I think that will make it like one of the big disruption that will make it appealing for more and more users.
Right. I think this is the main pillar of the vision that you define as creating the sandbox with creators. So you put a huge emphasis on creating a shared value and sharing it fairly throughout the creator ecosystem.
That's right. There is this whole creator economy on one side, where, like, again, UGC will play a major role in the metaverse, and we want the people who contribute to building those worlds, those experiences, to get 95% back of the value they bring for themselves, which is, just to give you a comparison, we have more or less 50 to 70% on other more Web2 centralized platform. But we also want to reward users who spend time and all the other activities and jobs that will grow in the metaverse. So I do believe that the metaverse will create millions of jobs, not just creator side, not just player side, but also like hospitality.
Yeah.
Being a community manager, a host, a curator of experience will be also a way to provide value, but also like organizing events, wedding, launch fairs, etc. as well. So it's quite interesting to see the possibilities behind that are opening again into this whole new digital world.
Yeah. Sebastian, we have been seeing some Web2 brands moving in the metaverse as well. So what's your take with that?
Well, we'll need to be a bit more specific. I think, like, since the announcement of Facebook rebranding itself into Meta back in October 2021, like, definitely Metaverse has become, like you said, kind of a buzzword. Everything says it's a metaverse, and I'm very attached to make a distinction between what is just still like a centralized virtual world that's operating. Maybe it's UGC, maybe it has a creator economy, but users, they do not own their assets. So when they buy something with real world money, actually, you cannot cash it back in a way by selling it to other users. You cannot use it anywhere else. There is not this concept of interoperability that blockchain and NFTs enable, meaning that my avatar, this representation of myself, could be used, and I can use my avatar into other virtual worlds and other decentralized applications without having to ask the permission of one or the other platform. And it's just like the beginning of the possibilities here. So I'm careful about it. I think like metaverse is this concept, like almost internet, but we need to introduce a major difference, which is again like enforcing ownership. Like digital ownership of your identity and your assets should be a right, and should be like, there's no way back once you understand that and makes it the right for all users online.
Right. Sebastian, this is all from my side. A couple of questions from the digital audience. Then I'm going to shoot them to you now, and then we will switch to the physical audience here. The question reads as, do you plan to work on a cross-platform that switches between different metaverse ecosystems? I think this is an interoperability question.
So we have already shown some of the possibilities of interoperability in the sandbox. First of all the content that's being built with the sandbox tools, they actually can already be used anywhere else. And the example you were giving about this Snoop Dogg avatar dance is a great one, because the format we use for the content, voxel, it's an open format, which can be used into many other creation tools. We also have been very attached to like demonstrate and embrace this open NFT culture, meaning like if you own already digital assets in your wallet, we enable you in Sandbox to use those assets in certain ways, such as if you have like art, collectible, you can display them. And if you have one important and popular categories of NFTs, which is like profile picture collection or avatar collection, that right now are just 2D images, each one unique with different traits, attributes, and aesthetics. We've been hard working to have the tool that automatically transforms those into 3D playable characters, which come to life and allows you then to socialize with other users, to meet the other holders of those NFTs, and start also creating with the UGC content. And we are adding more utilities in the metaverse, such as NFT gating. So, for example, you'll be able to access certain part or certain experiences only if you're owning an NFT external to Sandbox. And ultimately, that's the way we see ourselves as an open metaverse, a place that should add value for the communities and brands, a place where like people can come, connect with their avatar, discover new things, and be rewarded for doing so.
Thank you. And the second question from the online audience is that how is the authentication of digital ID going to be? Is there any way to create a digital ID based on blockchain that has our fingerprint, iris, or information inside? So an ID strategy with some biographic data, I guess.
So there's different perspective on that topic. First of all, and I think that's also something that makes Sandbox unique, is when you enter Sandbox, the first thing we ask you essentially is a nickname, your wallet, you connect with your wallet, and to pick an avatar. That's actually your identity. Okay. Your identity is this avatar. You can actually have multiple avatars if you want to have different identities attached to different wallets. And that's all we need. We do not need to collect anything like your email address, your first name, your last name. We don't know your ethnicity, your age, or things like that that will serve behind maybe to target you with advertising like we've seen before in Web 2. And I think that should be the main way for you to use and engage across multiple decentralized applications. Like you really only should provide more data if required, which means that it's not up to us to start collecting more private data, such as like your biometric information or digital passport, etc. Even though what I'm seeing in a Web3 broader ecosystem, I'm seeing solutions that provide tokenized identity, and that might be interesting solution because they allow to have users in control of which data they choose to provide to which application. That can become maybe a use case that becomes compatible with the metaverse.
Right. Last minute questions about the growth strategy of the Sandbox. Recently, Bloomberg reported that you are considering raising around $400 million with the valuation of $4 billion. So what is the trajectory for that, and what are your growth plans?
That's still a rumor. I cannot confirm anything. We've seen more or less recently how markets have been shifting, not just in crypto, but in all technology values. So that news is a little bit old. But ultimately, yes, Sandbox is aiming to grow. We have to build like pretty big and ambitious platform to deliver to what users, our community of landowners, creators are expecting from us, to increase the creative capabilities that our tool provides, so we can see a greater diversity of experiences, allowing users to launch their own virtual shows, launching virtual concerts with strong, popular music artists, and definitely to do that, we need to hire more people. So right now Sandbox is 300 people around the world. We recently acquired a company in Uruguay, adding 90 people building the Web3 stack of Sandbox. We're definitely going to make a few more announcements in a couple of months regarding growing the talent pool that creates the platform. while at the same time working to increase the ecosystem of sandbox around the world. So we have about 100 builder studios around the world and metaverse agencies who themselves are hiring a lot of people to become the creators that will bring to life the ideas, the experiences from some of the 21,000 landowners we have, or some of those brands, both the global one and local one. For example, when we are going to build the Turkiyeverse, like the local brand, they would want to work with the local builders. They have the same culture, they are available here, they can meet in person. I think that's then natural for us to look on how do we keep educating more and more, and we open those opportunities no matter where people are in the world.
Right, so it's a definitely ecosystem game. So let's switch to the audience here. So how we're gonna do is we have a mic here, so if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. We will pass the mic to you to keep the online audience hearing you. So the first question comes from the first row.
Thank you very much. Very nice and inspiring explanations. Well, I am interested in the new business models. Okay. Can you give us some examples about the new business models, but game changers, not the existing ones, which you think we will have in a couple of years? Inspiring ones.
All right. So I think we don't need to wait a couple of years to already see like the effect of the new business model that Web3 and NFTs have introduced. For almost 10 years in video games, we've seen the business model of premium, where users can actually buy a game and a content. They pay full price up front, and once they finish, it's done. We've seen freemium, where people can play games for free, but they can also make in-app purchases to get more content, access, buy currency that unlocks them more, allow to upgrade their equipment, etc., depending on the gameplays. And we're seeing now this business model called play to earn, or play and earn, where the value is actually being redistributed directly toward the users who actually engage, play, or create on those games. There's also something like NFTs have introduced. The fact that users can finally exchange with each other, sell those digital assets, makes that most of the revenues that you as a creator, as a brand, as an entrepreneur can make should not be thought, oh, the first time we sell the content, it's called the primary sale, but will come from the royalty fees that you collect every time two users are actually exchanging with each other. Usually those royalty fees are between 2.5 to 10% of the value of those NFTs, which means that actually as an entrepreneur or business, you will want to optimize for one, to make your users want to exchange with each other more often, so growing the demand for the digital asset, and growing the value, so the price of those digital assets. And the fact that those digital assets can be sold at any time, there will be users have always this arbitrage to make whether like, is it more interesting, more valuable for me to hold on to this asset, keep using it in the game, the application, or sell it right now at its current price? And that creates a new dynamic for like the games and the different business, where instead of like always having this content treadmill, launching new content, new content, new content, they need to refocus on like how do we add utility and value for our existing content, so people can sell at not as a loss but at a profit. Oh.
Okay, I'll be shifting the topic a little bit from economy to the sociology of technology. So I'm curious about the future of those newly built worlds, namely the metaverse platforms. And I'm curious about, are we gonna manage it to construct all those new worlds in an inclusive way, a gender neutral way? So I'm a bit lucky to have had a chat with you on that. So this is not a question. I just want you to just talk about your thoughts on that, because I do believe that it's going to be inspiring many other people.
Thank you. Well, I think with the metaverse, we have a chance to make things right in terms of like diversity and inclusivity. That means, think about again this notion of identity. Who we are is only an avatar. We have the choice of like how we look. We are not gendered. We can choose to be male, female, or non-human even. Like any kind of creator can be an avatar. And that means like people will see us and perceive us for what we truly are, and we choose to be, like how we contribute to other community in those space, what kind of content we create, and what NFT we hold, meaning which community we are part of. That's already a great basis, but that's not enough. So we have launched various initiatives, and maybe to rephrase, we have supporting various initiatives because I think like it's even more powerful to support the people who can truly make an impact. And one of those examples is we've supported the World of Women Foundation. World of Women is actually a very active NFT collection of 10,000 profile pictures of representing various women of color and with great diversity. And we gave them $25 million over 5 years to support like project of women in tech or integration and training education. Yesterday, we also announced supporting the people of Crypto Lab project for the Meta Pride event, which is we just the month of June, so we're starting Pride Day and Pride Month, supporting more LGBTQT plus integration, meaning like we will allow people who of various sexualities to choose and be represented and treated equally in the metaverse, while like expressing themselves, their true self, the way they want. And this is in partnership with this project, People of Crypto Labs, which is like very legitimate. Like they drive a lot of like active people and investors in this community already, so they know how to do things right and use this technology in the proper way.
Thank you.
Hi, Sebastian. Thank you for the presentation. Just a quick yes/no question. Any plans to launch Sandbags in other layer 1 networks in the future?
So let's talk about technology again. So blockchain here, the Sandbox initially we started developing it on Ethereum. When we started it was 2018. Back then was the main blockchain that has the largest developer ecosystem, support from the community, etc. Ethereum has evolved. Today, if we were to start again, I'm not sure like Ethereum would be the de facto choice. Like there's a greater amount of more efficient blockchain with various added utility and use case that Ethereum lacks. And to that extent, we've already started the process of migrating everything towards Polygon, which is, it's not a layer 1, it's a side chain, EVM compatible, which is much more efficient in terms of like energy consumption. So that's already one important thing. Just to give you an idea, like transacting on Polygon or like buying, selling an NFT doesn't consume more energy than sending an email. And secondly, it's also more accessible since we can support, we can create like gasless transaction, which in terms of user experience makes any NFT transaction very simple. They don't even need to think about all the complexity of having 2 currencies on your wallet, etc. We take care of that all. We'll send the utility token of Sandbox platform is already migrated. Lands will be migrated by end of month. Assets and the launch of the marketplace on layer 2 will be done as well, and from there will be fully compatible.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions? One from here.
Thank you so much for this inspiring talk. I'm very happy to hear about the diversity initiatives that you have. I will look into that further. I was wondering, because I know in the audience we have a lot of young people listening as well, what would you recommend to them, how they should develop themselves, train themselves for this new world? Thank you.
Well, I think right now, if you look broadly speaking anywhere in the world, the current education system isn't preparing people for like
Anywhere.
working in the metaverse. Like you do not, unless you choose to be specialized into like 3D design, art, or game creation or schools in the postgraduate kind of program, you will not learn those skills. Even the skills of like being an avatar and interacting with others into virtual worlds, solving puzzles, challenges, and so on, you will not learn those at school. But that's not an issue because you look at that new generation, they have already like using those tools. They are playing video games since their younger age. They're integrating all of that as part of their culture and even like their day-to-day routine. And I think these are the right kind of skills that they need, actually. Like playing video games allows them to develop new set of social skills, new set of like problem solving, puzzle solving that will prove to be actually more useful in the metaverse. They are already useful in the real world. I don't think we need to demonstrate that anymore. But definitely that will make us parents no more say like stop playing video game and try to find a job. Because like the metaverse and those video games will become, in my opinion, maybe the largest job provider in the future.
Sure. I totally agree with that. I have a 16-year-old and she's heavily playing competitive first-person shooters online. And in the first case, I was just a little bit skeptical about that. But with all those developments now, I'm encouraging her to do that and to go much more deeper in the game development and even the game scoring part of it, which she is very much into music as well. So I totally agree with you. It's going to be the most important career path that we can have. I wish I was a little bit younger for that. So any more questions here in the first row as well? So all the askers are from the first row. Right.
Thank you so much for the very nice talk. Being a game-oriented project, how do you envision Sandbox? Like, you're one of the leaders, like in the metaverse right now, and you're kind of a trendsetter. And how do you envision for 10 years later from today, the Sandbox, the metaverse environment? Is it going to be again a game-oriented, gamification-oriented environment, or how would you position, or how would you rather prefer to position Sandbox in the future, rather than being a gamification, or still go on with that?
Great question.
Yes, definitely a good question. Like, why does gaming matter so much? Well, at the macro level, we've seen that video gaming is like the industry that, like, just by itself alone is bigger than music and movie combined. Sure. And the pandemic has accelerated that. But underneath, and I think that's really interesting, is there's one key question that we need to solve. Like, the metaverse sounds great. Like, we're still very early days, so everyone is asking what it will be, what we can do. And me, I'm asking the question, not just what we can do once, but what will keep us coming back into the metaverse? What drives us every day? And in a way, like, what drives people to keep playing video games day after day is that notion of progression, completion, fulfillment, excitement, fun, discovery, socialization. Those are like those mechanisms that we call gameplay mechanics, actually, and that video game developers and creators have quite well mastered, that we want to bring into like the overall design of experiences. So we inspire more people, and we hope that it's not just about the technological possibilities, but it's also about the creativity and those mechanisms combined that will bring people not just once into an experience and be gone, but to come back again and discover new things and have a different and have a feeling of completion. We also see Sandbox again connected as a virtual world where you and through your avatar, almost like in a real world, as you cross the street and you discover a new shop, a new restaurant, you turn the corner and there's something new again, and maybe 2 months after it changed, there's a new place that opened you didn't know about. So you want to have that sense of curiosity, of discovery. So with your avatar, you enter the world, and you not necessarily know in advance what you will what you will find. And towards 10 years, I think we'll get looking at much more immersive experiences, also in terms potentially of what AR and VR have to offer versus now. Still, right now, I think like the metaverse is essentially like a 3D experience on 2D screens, and that's largely enough to bring massively hundreds of millions of users into it. But as those technology mature, it could be more interesting to see how augmented reality and extra reality will have to provide to make it more, even more of like a fun show and place of discovery and excitement.
Great.
Yes.
And the final question from the back side.
First of all, thank you for the inspiring speech. I want to ask you a question on VR technology. I'm personally a bit annoyed Metaverse is directly linked to VR technology, so some people think Metaverse is only about VR glasses, even it's not. So how do you feel on this connection between VR and Metaverse, and do you think virtual reality will be the leading technology behind Metaverse or not one day?
So well, back a little bit to what I was saying. I think like Metaverse is really not about VR. Like those are right now two pretty disconnected spaces. Like VR has its own utility, but it has not reached the mainstream. Some actors are trying to push towards a more VR-oriented metaverse, Meta, for example, because they have the Oculus Rift as a device. But I don't think like we should limit the entry to the metaverse and the kind of experience we can see inside towards VR. It's important also because the way you are going to experience, you do not need to be the avatar inside the experience. You do not need to be physically yourself into it. Like I actually think it's much more fun and engaging to actually, you have yourself as an avatar, you have yourself in the physical world, and you manage those two identities the way you want. They do not necessarily need to be the same. So definitely VR could be interesting in a matter of like 5-10 years, I believe, but right now let's focus on making the metaverse as accessible as possible to anyone without extra hurdles.
Sebastian, thank you very much. I think it's good time to conclude this session. We will have a 15 minutes break for refreshment and coffee, and then we'll be coming back with a panel of the ecosystem and how we can leverage and how we can realize all these experiences and business models that we have already talked. Thank you very much for this very inspiring conversation. I appreciate your time and effort for this.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Evet değerli konuklar.
All right, friends and dear audience, after a break, we're together. At the first part of our meeting, we talked about the Sandbox together with Sebastian Bourget. We talked about business models, we talked about identity, and we talked about how we are going to exist in the metaverse. Now we are going to look at the other side of the table together with our friends and colleagues, and now I give the floor to Arslan Kirin. Thank you and welcome to all of you. First of all, before starting our panel, I would like to thank CoinDesk Turkey and the team for organizing this event. Everything is moving along smoothly, so we'd like to thank them for that. And before moving on with our panel, let's do a brief introduction. And I would like to mention that I'm responsible for Sandbox growth, and maybe we can hear about Burak and Enis too. Can you hear me now? My name is Ömer. I am a partner at Vasistas, and I am responsible for the international projects. As Vasistas, we have been active for 12 years or so, and for most of the time we time we look at best technologies and we try to bring in what we see the best things are in the international market, and we try to bring them into Turkey and engage in market development. And also we have been working with artificial intelligence, and for the last year and a half or two we have been engaged in Web3, and specifically in Metaverse. We are having a partnership with the Sandbox. So we are going to talk about how brands can penetrate the metaverse and how can they create value. This is what we look into, and of course we come up with projects based on our research. Hello, my name is Enis Yazırlıoğlu. I have a 18-year-old ICT background, and right now I am a founding partner and chief operations officer at Hungry Games. This is a game development studio, Hungry Games, and also we publish the games. We developed strategy games, and then we have built an interactive storytelling game, and as of last year's we have been developing NFT games, and we have been working on gamification and play to earn systems in the metaverse. And the last game is about a horse race in the metaverse, in the virtual environment. So we are working on really delightful and exciting things. So I'd like to give the floor to Burak now. I guess your mic is off, Burak? Check 1, 2. Can you hear us? Okay, well, now I look like a singer. I am representing UGC 90. My name is Burak Günsev. I have an advertising background of 20 years, and during the pandemic I took on the opportunity and I exited an ad agency, and so I exited the industry as a whole. And for the last 6 months I've been focused on venture building, and we are in similar industries: play to earn, gamify, and metaverse. These are what we are looking into, and we have Boğaziçi Ventures as our partner, and we are looking into the acceleration and transformation on blockchain projects and their transformation into games. So this is where we come into play. And also we are looking into metaverse projects in various platforms, and for the last 2.5 months we have been working together with the Sandbox, and I'll go into the details later on. Okay, so our panel will mostly can be divided into 3 topics. We are going to talk about NFT gaming and the mechanism of play to earn, and where does it sit in the ecosystem. Afterwards we are going to talk about brands and branding, and we are going to ask Ömer's opinion to see how branding works in the metaverse, what are we doing, what are the trends. And finally we are going to talk about a metaverse in Turkey, so that we can have your questions as well. So that's how we are going to wrap it up. So let me briefly tell you about the organization of the Sandbox. It's quite new, so Sebastian took the first step, and let me talk about what we're planning here. We are actually trying to build a culture of metaverse, and this includes several actors. When you talk about the metaverse, it's not only about the game, it's the core. And the actors include artists. This is what we plan. At least we try to build an art-based brand for Turkey so that we can put it at the limelight. And also we have fashion, which is another topic of interest and which is a must for the metaverse. And also we have music, of course. And looking into it, we see different actors that form or support metaverse, and games are feeding into it and shaping and building. And forming a culture around it. So as Sandbox Turkey, we try to bring these actors together so that we can have them under a single roof. And also we have a created area for Turkey. You are going to see some very large brands, important brands there soon. And something specific for Turkey, since we have a gaming background for the most part, it has a large game market, and we consider it to be an advantage for us in creating the metaverse in Turkey. We had mid-core or hyper-casual games or RPG building games. We have some studios that are doing great jobs. So they are going to play a crucial role. If any brand builds something at Sandbox, they are going to have a large game partnership and ecosystem behind them. So we are going to have certain programs specific to gaming studios in Turkey. So before moving on to the NFT gaming, we always looked at gaming as bigger than music and film industries combined. Here, in the metaverse, these are more intertwined. So I'd like to ask Enis's opinion, starting with NFT gaming, the trends there, and how they are going to converge with the metaverse in your experience, and how do you shape it, how it is being shaped. Thank you, Arslan. Well, just like you said, the gaming industry is bigger, or interest when you compare it with other entertainment industries. It is trying to form the basis for all of them. This gaming background or the basis is now related to all metas, and it's becoming it's turning into an NFT, and it can be used in that process. So gaming, I believe, evolved into the basis, the foundation for all of that, so that it pushes everything upward. And in the gaming world, of course, it's going through revolutions and transformations of its own. We had premium games, right now we have free-to-plays that follow them. Those who want to can purchase if they want, but everyone is free to game. Either way, this was a large and important revolution, which also have seen some growth with mobile gaming. Also, we took on that opportunity to build our RPG and strategy games. But right now, it's going into a different direction, which we call play to earn. Just like the Bitcoin disrupted the finance world, we had many different coins, and right now they have their own real world value. And in games, with this play to earn mechanism, what you earn within the game, these virtual currencies have turned into coins, which can be converted into fiat currency. So you can buy different or various NFTs, you can use them within the game, you can use it to improve or level up your character, and when you do it, you get the opportunity to earn more. And so you build this loop of economy within this world. So, and also it's moving on quite fast. And in the NFT world, we see different virtual worlds within the metaverse, and there are certain gamification mechanisms in which you can use your NFTs. These can be various areas or sections. We see lots of handbags around here, for example. There is a NFT equivalent in the metaverse. So there's going to be a price for sale. So there are certain accepted values for that. You can buy land or houses. We are building a horse racing game called Meta Horse. You can buy a racing horse, and it's quite cheaper than real horses. So you feed them, you take care of them, and you breed these horses to get better horses so that you can win and earn more. So there are countless examples. You do not see the end of it. And as Sebastian mentioned, it's really beyond virtual reality. Anywhere you have a screen, you can be a character, you can have an avatar. And with this avatar, you can use it in a game or in a public or a communal space, such as a concert or a movie-going event. You can share ideas, exchange ideas, and socialize. Or within this virtual world, you can buy a house, you can do whatever you want. So these are all based on gaming scenarios. So for play to earn, in recent times we have seen some negativity or negative publicity with certain games in Turkey. So I'd like to ask Brock about that. So am I here or here? I believe. So with play to earn, it's turning more into play to own, or is it the case? I'd like to ask you. There is a different structure going there. For the last couple of months, play to earn has been turning into pray to earn. So both the market and the sustainability of economy and the challenges related to that have made it pray to earn, what we have experienced recently. As you said, as you just said, Bitcoin or the crypto currency, we name it after Bitcoin when we talk about it. So with Axie we have some dual token economic card based system. It has been going on for almost 3 years. So they used to last 3 years. Now they are lasting a couple of months. In NFT Dubai, there were some teams who built with no gaming experience and who collected a lot of money, and people have been really concerned about all of them. And of course, when we hadn't experienced USD Luna yet back then in those minds. Right now it's ultra obvious. We can say when you are launching a game, or we do not have any token launches, 90% of NFT launches have been cancelled or postponed. So right now the experienced studios, the experienced teams with gaming and crypto background, they can turn it into play to earn and play to enjoy. They have a great opportunity because both in terms of funding and in terms of change, talking about the ultimate games, not talking about the crypto gamers or players, the only way to ensure that our games are played by millions are possible by making it play to enjoy. Otherwise, the daily numbers can only hit up to 1 million. But I see it as a positive. We are going through some trouble sometimes, we are losing some money, but those who are building, the companies and people, creators who are building, are facing a great opportunity. And in order to build, we have human resources and financial resources, and there is a strong belief in Web3, and you need belief, you need all three of them combined. So there are three heads: fund, of course I also talk from a studio perspective, and also at the chain side, it's about, let's say, the technology side, or about which chain we're going to use. So this is how we go through this gauntlet. But staying at the building side, you can manage your advantage. So I believe you have certain NFTs and projects. So how does it look? Can you provide us with some figures? This is how the NFT market is going. This is a trend. When we take out the games, because it's an important actor in Metaverse. Yes, actually, they were the driver of the last year, so to speak, when the whole market was hibernating, the NFTs, collectibles were running at full speed. And last year, of course, we had PFP, mostly visual, illustrative collections with not many utilities. Based on certain hype, they reach certain figures that are quite large, and also depending on how the market works, games and NFTs coincided at a certain point. Of course, 90% of these projects are coming with an expectation of utility, and when you relate it to the games, it makes it makes a real sense. So some projects that started as profile pictures, some collections that started as profile pictures, Bored Ape as an instance, they were going to come up with a game, and I have some Turkish ambassadors in New York. They weren't able to launch the game, and they worked on it for 6 or 7 months. So they collected some more funds and moved on to NFT because the hype train was moving quite fast. They had problems with Apple about how the money is going to be collected. You know how Apple approaches these things. So even such a large group can be challenged, and we witnessed that. They tweeted their launch dates, and there were no signs, but they moved on to the metaverse. So there's 100K collection, as you are aware. So I believe the NFT collections are an inseparable part of the metaverse. So moving from a token based or economy, we are going to a handshake protocol where you can use the NFTs with certain utility, and metaverse provides a great and ample opportunity to do that. So without disturbing the economy, you can move from smaller to larger items, let's say from the horseshoe to the horse itself and the circuit they are going to run around. You can make them into NFTs, so the whole economy can be built on that idea. The most important thing is the scarcity and how the economy is managed. So the challenge here is that uh, it's similar to managing the economy of a whole country. When the game becomes large enough, you have dozens of people who look into that, or you outsource it. And we had Alive'de Research who was responsible, because most of them go look at Alameda to do that, and they do things with USD Luna, and they also market things. So they have a market maker, researcher. So I believe this is the combination of all three. So moving on to the branding side, with Ömer, I believe you can provide us some insight. We work together related to the brands. So with regards to metaverse and brand integration, what do you think the trajectory is? We are talking with lots of brands right now. Yes, before moving on to that, let me tell you this. Why games are important. The gamers are going to take the meaning out of these metaverse, and they can find their role, their place, because gamers already have this background. They are quite ready and available. So our goal is to bring people to ensure that they spend time and enjoy themselves and spend resources to buy things and get things for themselves. So this is the retention part. How are we going to keep these people here? This the most effective community on which we can do this is the gaming community. And moving on to the problem that we face, we have the hype side of things, because lots of people are coming to ask what kind of a project can we do in the metaverse. And first we need to look internally, or with the brands. The first question we ask is, should you do it in the first place? Is your company or brand, should it be within the metaverse? This is the first question that we ask, because beyond the PR value, beyond the publicity, can we come up with a service or a product that is actually viable? This is the first question that we ask. And moving on from that, if we get the answer yes, or if we can find a solution, then we start imagining what we can do together. And while imagining, we want two things. First, we need attraction, we need to bring people in, then we need to have retention, we need to keep people in so that they enjoy themselves. So the most simple use case would be the ideal point which we'd like to reach as we talk with you throughout the month. Moving on from that, we move on to stage 3, the boring part, the technical needs and so on, or the budgeting side of things and their return of investment. So, talking about the relevant parts, which industries can adapt quicker? Well, we have 8 of them. Gaming is one. Then we have music, arts, followed by architecture, I believe is a good example because you can have some interesting things that can be virtualized. We are quite excited about that. And moving on, we have sports, which is quite important. Esports are quite crucial. Let me take a look at my notes to see if I missed anything. Well, then moving on that, we have media and lifestyle. So with these 8 columns, specifically we look at what we can do. We look at the high value or the highest value options. These are the industries that we look into. So talking about the brand integration, I believe it's easy with Sandbox. When we talk with a Sandbox, we sell them a piece of land, we can place it, but the actual thing is what the brand is going to do on the land that they have purchased. And at that point, you need some creativity from the brand because most of the time they ask us, we are a bank, they say, and we want to do something here. What can we do? Of course, we have some best case examples about what has been done within the world. But do you receive some creative ideas from the brands themselves within Turkey? Do you move with certain assets? Let's say, I believe personally, or in our case, in Vasistas, we need to be active partners or leaders. We try to show them the way about how we can move forward together, because the imagination part we take on a more active role. So moving on to the realization, we are still standing by the brand. So that's why I said we ask the first question, should we do it? Then we move on to how we are going to keep doing this. So studios, I believe, contribute greatly in this regard. So we we move on with the idea and how we can manage and grow the process. This is how we do. Yes. So with Metaverse, we have the Sandbox platform, which is quite ready. But first, we ask this question, especially with in September or October we had it. When you talked about a bank, I wanted to interject. This is something that I experienced 20 years ago. They asked us, could you build us a Yahoo? And between 2008 and 13, one bank and also all my former clients, all the telecommunication industries and so on, most of you know, and we have representatives, so they asked, can we build a Facebook? Then it turned into Instagram. Right now, I thought that it was over, but we had some quite meetings, and right now they're telling us that they're building a metaverse. They have the budget, so of course it's hard to tell them, but it's becoming easier. I give us the figures, so it took 11 years. This is the market value. This is how they pivoted. Right now they employ 250 people. There are 500 people employed in studios. This equals to Alpha 2. So if I'm not saying that Alpha 2 is bad, but I'm trying to show how hard it is. So this is enough to convince them otherwise. But because we have this great hype going on within this market, and since the market is also pushing in that way, this is not the dark side, but the other side of the metaverse. This is the pretend side of the metaverse or the market. So with the play to earn what couldn't be done, these failed games, then we also have these failed metaverses. Or even if they do not fail, if we have these ultra institutional structures, well, if you're not going to do it, we ask you to do tokens or NFTs, you said no, but we are going to have it. We say okay, and we do it. Of course, we have some meetings that we had in Metaverse. Of course, they go there for an hour, and in minute 7, they say that let's move back to Zoom. So they fail at Metaverse and they just burn $10,000. So this is the first step, or the first plunge into the water. That's not bad. It's not specific to Metaverse. We had it with Facebook and others. So this is what I wanted to remind. And with banks, I had lots of banks that I worked with: Yapı Kredi, Garanti, Akbank, and TEB. I worked as their main digital agency. Then finally we hit HSBC at Sandbox, and the utility side is already problematic. And of course, in Decentraland we had certain banks, and they were quite pompous. They printed these fancy newsletters, but maybe you have seen it. Maybe we didn't talk about it much in Turkey, but within the bank there is a tiger and other characters, and people had quite some fun about what the standards are going to be. There were videos of the managers on the walls, and I looked at HSBC. They had sports communication and esports, so there is a strategy that's going on that has been built. So you don't have to do anything related to banking alone. So you don't need to give them everything. If you provide them with the general overall strategy, then they can move on from that. I believe HSBC is took the nice steps. So Enis, I'd like to ask you, when we talk about Metaverse, you have, as you mentioned, the horse racing feature. Can you talk about it? Because it sounded quite interesting to me. Well, within the game, we have a metaverse within our horse racing game. So with different dialogues, you can capture wild horses and you can tame them into racing horses. Of course, you need to complete some quests. You walk around, you tame and capture them and tame them, and you can even turn them into NFTs. You can prepare them for the races and so on. So moving from green grass, I'd like to talk about the democratization. So you don't have to spend any money. You can capture a wild horse. You can spend time and energy or effort. Then you can make the horse win races. You can breed it. You can turn it into NFT and go to the top steps. So this is the play to earn, and the underlined earn part. You can earn it with hard work within the metaverse. The more you work at it, the more you can earn with these formulas. So I'd like to also talk about brands while I'm at it. I believe Sandbox is quite the environment, because the brand is actually looking at their customers. What are they doing? How can I adapt myself to their lifestyle? And Sandbox is kind of a simulation of real life. You listen to concerts, you socialize. So brands may use this environment for sponsorship, and for example, they can have sponsored games. In these games, people are going to have fun, so you are going to become a part of their entertainment. And also they can have quests related to their specific industries. And so this might be a subconscious or industry related training about being a representative for the bank or so on. So different quests can help contribute to their customers or clients. So with play to earn, people are going to believe that the brand is helping them, they are contributing them. So the game might be a catalyst in that regard. So within the Sandbox, there are different game creator modes, and various games can be made there, and they can simulate real life, so they can fit quite right into brands. So you mentioned brands and IP, so I'd like to ask you this. You have brand and IP projects related to gaming. So we are doing certain things within Sandbox, so can we talk about that? So a TV series that is well known within Turkey. We have an interactive story, a relationship game. These are quite compatible with the metaverse, this genre as a whole, because you take on the role of a character at a TV show or another story. You are immersed within the story, just like you are watching the TV series. You become that character and you move on with the scenario. So we have that. I don't know if I should say their names. These are things that we know. We have Istanbullu Gelin. We have a game within our affairs game, and also we have Erkenci Kuş. We have Demet Özdemir, Can Yaman, and all actors and actresses being represented. So how can we take this to Sandbox, and how can we build these TV series sets? How can people play the games just as they are watching these series? So we are moving into a project. I believe Can Yaman's avatar could be quite interesting. Well, as you know, Turkish TV series are quite popular across the world. They have great audiences. Istanbul Gelin is not being shown in Turkey, but in other countries it's still on air. So I believe there are going to be global gamers and fans, and I believe the NFT is going to be quite valuable. And Burak, I believe we are doing certain things with you, so can you talk about what you're doing with Sandbox? And I believe we have certain assets that you can show us. Well, before Sandbox, we were working with Minecraft-based NFT worlds. This was the NFT, our Metaverse project that we had. It was about how to collect or build a collection and build micro games. And also within Decentraland, we tried certain things. We had some attempts. What I can add to the previous speaker is that for brands, what excites me greatly, and also other brand builders, CMOs and other people, is that this is a brand new method of storytelling. So, before the conventional way of storytelling, or when you go back, we had poems, songs, we had inscriptions on tablets, then we moved on to the film industry, then followed by the web, and I believe Metaverse is going to be the next step in the evolution where a brand can tell its story. So, both for brands and on IP related projects, and also with these ready-made storytelling idea, we have the idea or stories of Anatolia, Istanbul and Turkey, and here we have a vast collection of stories, so we had a hard time prioritizing actually because we had so many options. So we selected a few so that we can jump to the global scale, and we can surprise people. And when we tested it, we have seen that it was successful. Those who were born in Anatolia or in Turkish lands, or the stories that arise and stem from them, some people do not know. And when we tell these stories, and when we tease these stories, people say that, oh, is it the origin? Wasn't it the Greek story, and so on? So this starts a conversation. So this is a twist. So it's a legend or a myth or an IP. So this is going to be our starting point. We are going to have histories, myths, and stories and legends of Turkey. So we are quite rich in these. So within the metaverse, we already have these interactions within the metaverse. It is a great advantage that we already have it, so we could easily start telling our stories. The first one was related to a story that started and ended within Turkey, which is the legend of Troy. If it's possible, We can show it. We have some GDD documents without the text. Maybe we can only show the visuals so that I can show you how we build it as a studio, how an experience is visualized. So I can tell it. Is it possible that we show the visuals? I believe it would be nice to see some visuals on Sandbox. I believe the idea of Troy is compatible with the international market. Yes, we have also Göbekli Tepe and we have lots of great values. It's impossible to choose. You start with one, then you say, okay, this monument is biggest. Okay, we also have Olympus, we have Ephesus. Let's get all the gods and so on. So I I believe it's going to loop a few times. Of course, within this experience, we take one part of it. We start inside within the city of Troy. So I'm going to catch up. We have the characters here. So let's start from the beginning. It's called the Hero of Troy, and our character is born in Troy. And the reason why we did that is that we spend time there with our family. So this is the 3D visualization of the city of Troy and the state. So we have a roguelike game. This is similar to Assassin's Creed. Our voxel character is trying to unlock these levels or the gates of the city. There are various quests, 6 of them, and while doing that, this character faces characters from the myth within the story, and some of them they fight against, some of them are just scenes, and you know the story, overall story, and we wanted to show you so that you can have an idea of how it's visualized. So this is the 15-meter tall detailed voxel replica of the Trojan horse, and here it's going to be large, and it's going to be larger than ever in terms of a voxel build within Sandbox. So as I said, we have 6 quests, and with these 6 quests, our character, of course it doesn't follow a linear path just like a movie does. We gamify it. For instance, if the avatar arrives naked, then they need to collect their armor and their shield. But if they buy the NFT, then they can start the game faster. So there are certain layers to it. And maybe in the future, we can use another character. So we are a part of Achilles' company. So something happens and he dies. But of course, within this mission, we are the last soldier standing that captures the city and completes the mission. There are different Easter eggs, side quests that are spread throughout. So in terms of the NFT part, people might not prefer to play the game but collect NFTs. Yes, exactly. Just like you said. Let's say you logged in and it was challenging for you. You might say that I like Achilles, let me have, and we had 500 of these, so maybe the scarcity could mean that it might become valuable. So this is an advantage because these characters are unique. I believe the NFTs are going to perform really well. So they might just buy and trade the NFT or gift it, or they might keep it for the long term. As long as the sandbox is alive, they will move on. So to wrap up, I'd like to ask Ömer one thing. What kind of values can we see within Turkey? We are working on something related to Cappadocia, and we talked about different locations, about the cultural heritage of Turkey, because these are brands actually in and of themselves. For Turkeyverse, I believe it has great value, as Sebastian mentioned, because Turkeyverse, you can think of it as an expo pavilion within the Metaverse. So within the metaverse world, you are going to visualize and represent the values and assets of Turkey, and we are quite lucky to have such a rich history. We talked about Troy, and you move 50 kilometers down, you have Pergamum and so on. You see various steps, and you see quite important landmarks of the Western world. And when you move towards the east, we have Mount Ararat and Cappadocia and Göbekli Tepe. There are great opportunities to gamify them, and these are great assets for us. And I think of it like this. We have soft power in politics, if you know. During the Cold War, the USA wanted to woo the world with Coca-Cola and Elvis Presley. And when you think about the soft power that Turkey has, the TV series are quite effective. This is truly, if you go to Dubai, you would see Kıvanç Tatlıtuğ, the Turkish actor, right beside the photo of Brad Pitt. And our history is another soft power. And of course, we are trying to come up with different soft powers, and we are going to be seeing them within the sandbox. So we want to represent them, visualize them to make them bigger. So we can move on to the questions if we have any about all these topics so that we can wrap it up. Well, Brock mentioned brands and what I still get the briefs that you mentioned about the Facebooks and so on. So I'd like to hear your opinion. I believe we missed the 1.0 train. We tried to catch up to the 2.0, but for 3.0, both in the digital art side of things and the game development side of things, we have a great accumulation of energy within Turkey. So I believe the potential is great, and there are certain parts where we actualize this potential, because on the crypto side we are also active, but in other parts I believe there are great opportunities where we are actually realizing our potentials. Since Web3 is the sum of collective power, and creativity as we know it is about is being handed over to the final users in our lands, in our country, both in crypto and also in agency work or influencers. We have lots of them. I agree with you. I concur. And in this, if we create this collaboration environment and if we seize this power, then we can catch this Web 3.0 train. Maybe it might not be the best example, but we tried to build gas-powered cars, but we failed and we moved on to electric cars. There are certain barriers, of course, that's a different story, but I believe we can act quicker here with Web 3.0, because this environment, this session that we have here is a testament to it. Because with Facebook, we saw it in 2008 or 9. We have made the first Facebook agency. Even the model was not working. It was for free-to-play, and Turkey caught up really fast that I believe we remained the third largest country for 4 or 5 years. So this dominance in Metaverse, I believe Sandbox is going to lead us in that regard. So the creative side of the Turkish people and the volume of users will hopefully lead to nice projects, and we will see good returns and good results. So this collaboration is going to be, in a way, the telling of our stories. So our people are going to be ambassadors, so that they can spread information about our cultural heritage and so on. And hopefully in the future we are going to have these other items that we so desperately need as a country. Please. I have 2 brief questions. One is about the experience game companies needing to take action. You said that it would be important because you said that lack of funding might lead to fails, and I agree. And I'd like to know this. In community growth or sustainable game economy, or in these kind of topics, how do the experienced game companies get this experience, because we didn't have them before? So should there be a consultancy, or should we mess up at first, or how did they do it? So this is the first question. The second one is that you said that from the transformation from play to earn to play and earn, we have numerous systems that we do not see any enjoyment, or at least I can't, beyond tokens or so on. So in your R&D works, do you see any games where we can earn and enjoy? Nice questions. Let me begin. So for the first question, the answer is within your question. Web 3.0 is democratic in terms of information. The deeper you dig, the more information you can find for free. You can find anything about how to develop anything about blockchain and crypto and so on. But of course, going to the market, finding funding, when you those who experienced it only a first time are the OGs, let's say, because we do not have decades of experience, because this is the experience that we need. If you have one game release, then you are considered experienced. So it's up to you. You might decide to do it yourself or ask others. One would take longer, but we see great assistance and support within the community, because everyone's wearing different various hats. So the best would be collaborating with those who know, with advisors or other companies. Collaborate with them, and because this is a win-win ecosystem where we all win. No one saying that I will get this whole pie and no one can get. So it's quite different than the conventional way of thinking. There's lots of sharing. So information is free, experience is not free, but is shared and available. So you have lots of opportunities. The only thing you need to do is that you need to have a solid project, show it around, and I'm sure that someone is going to help you. Yes, for Web3, there is a great deal of help within the community. This great sense of community with these mainnets that we work with, for example, Polygon, or with investors, or Animoca brand, one of our investors. They provide great assistance and support for all startups and gaming companies, or whether it's other companies. And for Sandbox specifically, we have this something of an academy where we are moving on with the translation right now. We have some classes, so we have an education and training department. That's their sole job. So the academy is quite important. We try to provide assistance and support as much as we can, and we try to provide content and funding. So we have great investments and budgets there. So of course, it's accelerating the growth of Web3. Compared to conventional gaming, it's much easier and much more comfortable because of this collaboration. And also, it's, I believe, about where you are at life. If you are in your 20s, if you do not have any keys, just try it. As you said it, just fuck up and learn. So this is my personal opinion. I found my first company when I was 27. I tried and failed. So it's like swimming. Read all the books. If you don't jump into the water, then you cannot learn. So besides this metaverse, so I believe that you have the luxury to take that risk. So this is just a point. So for the second question, as you said, the first NFT game projects that were released, as someone in the industry, the mechanics were not as good as conventional games. They were more related to the NFT part, so they wanted to monetize it as soon as possible. And of course, within the life cycle or hype cycle of the industry, they just shoot up quickly, then they fail even faster. Of course, it's going to reach an equilibrium. Those who know the games, how to make games, the people and the studios are taking much more solid steps, so that you are going to have a nice game mechanics combined with good tokenomics. Of course, this industry has these great patrons such as Sandbox. They made this great investment, and also they are doing so much for the ecosystem. They are putting too much into it. They are building their own games, but they are also caring for smaller studios and other creators. So I believe the quality of games will catch up with the tokenomics. So you asked for an example. We play lots of games in order to deconstruct them as well. So, and also we play them to earn. But we cannot play to enjoy, as you said. You are right. Of course, this is a day of Sandbox, but I believe in Alpha 2 the games were quite enjoyable, and I believe everyone in our team and in your team as well, I believe, achieved a great deal of playtime. There are hundreds of hours. So a blockchain-based game was played. So it's not just clicking the cards. You have quests, we have sword fights, and so on. It's a real, honest-to-God game. So when you think about it like that, I can't think of any other examples where you can enjoy, where a real, true gamer would enjoy. Of course, there are incentives at the end. Those who finish the alphas are given certain rewards, and I believe the balance there is quite important. We had some serious rewards, but some of those who played were not able to win, but in Alpha 3 and 4 they are going to play again. And so the motivation is high, we can say that. So it's about how you build this balance. So there are lots of things that you can learn from Sandbox in terms of game mechanics. So it looks like a closed system, it looks like you're playing within the metaverse, but if you can make these games specific, and when you make them, if we are going to do the same, so it would be similar to mini games within a giant environment. So I believe that they are enjoyable. So of course the blockchain technology is improving. So of course, there is a great disruption. There was a great disruption when we engaged in transaction and so on, but we are coming up with new solutions so as to streamline the process. So, I played the games that you mentioned where you didn't enjoy, because companies like Hunger Games building these games, then we would be having real gamers rather than traders and investors such as Peak Games and other companies. I believe they can grow much faster if they come up with good mechanics. Of course, I don't think it's about the size of the studio. There are, of course, certain advantages. They can have a team dedicated to that, but related to the question that you asked before, how many people know about blockchain, or how many people are dedicated enough, and how you are going to combine them. This is important, and no one has done it. Making a game enjoyable is something, but converting people is a whole different ball game. We have, let's say, hundred thousands of NFT holders, and the token is 0.0000 and so on. So we were thinking about buying some of the legendaries for $1,500. Right now they are worth $30. So beyond enjoyment, we have, I believe they reached 22, 23 million in terms of user numbers. But the problem is retention. So this is the game within the game industry. So you need to learn how to play the game with the publishers and where to spend the investment and so on, how much you are going to burn, and the funding, how is it going to be distributed. And when you, the most important part in handling is the type and the amount of money. And sometimes the games failed because they collected too much fund. They had some vesting problems which destroyed their economy. So getting a lot of money is not good. Everyone knows it, but it's hard to say no. So this is how these people earn their monies, the funders. So this is causing inflation. So game studios are much more careful in that. You asked about the teams. So I believe beyond the money that has been put in by the partner or the chain or whatever, their information is much more important. Let's say they give you $50 or $100,000. So there is no, maybe the driver could spend $500,000 or $1 million, but the actual goal is to receive know-how from these people so that the whole team, the building, and all the way to the HR, you can get help. I believe Mert has a question and we can wrap it up afterwards. Hello. I'd like to ask you, in terms of the metaverse, we have finance and law. For companies or for IPs, do you think it's a marketing project for companies, or is it a new generation of business model? If it's going to be a next gen business model, how should the finance and legal side of things should be built? If it's just a marketing project, then it's a part where the marketing budget is burned. But if it's a new business model, then we need to have solid foundations in terms of legal aspects and finance. I can start in Web 2.0, people and their interaction with brands. If it was mostly through social media, and of course it's a marketing platform. But in Web 3.0 we go one step further and we start living within this world. We can have a different world. Having an avatar, having your, let's say, digital twin within that world is, since there is lots of money being circulated and since there is real transaction and exchange being made, so brands, I believe it's impossible for them to consider it only as a marketing tool. They need to be involved and they need to be making some of their transactions within the metaverse. Maybe with a game within the metaverse, or maybe in a different way, and I believe this is heading in that way. For communication, let me briefly say that in digital agencies such as ours, 10 or 15 years ago, we started this convention. There was a period where conventional communication changed. We moved on from having a one-sided communication to two-sided communication. And since we have trade here, it moves even beyond that. The bravery of the Web3 companies is related to that, because they have this great capacity. They have the youth, and they have this in these Web3 native companies. They are let's say they are open to taking risks, or risks that make sense. I'm not talking about rug pulls, but within 2 or 3 projects or within 2 or 3 failures, we have seen some great results. Iteration is a part of life, and this is something that scares traditional brands, and I believe that they should be scared of this, because they want to say, let's publish NFTs, let's come up with tokens, and I just scare them away from it, because the management and risk is so great, because we are talking about commerce here. The communication is being lost within translation, and they just start to talk about the money that they make, and reputation is just put away. So I believe in Web 2.0, Cambridge Analytica and Cambridge, what they did and their legal ramifications, there isn't even consensus about that. So for Web 3, I don't think it's good to say anything about that. But for finance, let me say that when people first look at it, they have a hard time distinguishing. We have speculation and cryptocurrency, and we have Web3. People mostly consider them to be one and whole, so they have some prejudices, and of course we understand it. And last week they were talking about Bernie Madoff losing 60 million, so they are Doc One made people lose $16 billion, and we have Luna 2.0. So this, of course, Web3 builds trust and provides ownership to the users. And so this is revolutionary from the ground up. So in terms of finance, it's going to take it to a whole different level. It's bringing up new opportunities. It's creating new markets. So we need to be as focused as possible on the core technology, but I believe the legal aspects are going to be built. We have the final question so that we can end the session. Hello. I'd like to ask you a question about the Sandbox ecosystem. We are talking about a single studio and 2 games. I believe they are within the Sandbox ecosystem. Am I correct? We have 2 studios and 2 games. Sorry. Okay. So my question is, we are trying to build a blockchain game ecosystem which doesn't coincide with Sandbox. So we'd like to learn about what your morals and motivations when you were building the Sandbags. What makes Sandbox desired for gaming studios? So this is what I should have been asking you. Why Sandbox? Why did you choose Sandbox? Please. Well, I briefly mentioned at the beginning that we tried some of the metaverses. How are they gamified? Are they gamifiable? And we have the experience storytelling was not as we wanted in Decentraland, and in NFT worlds we are also coming from a Minecraft background, so we were able to hit the ground running. And of course NFT grounds was not an hack but like a circumvention of Minecraft. So the maturity of the team was not at the level that we wanted, but Sandbox answered most of the questions and ticked most of these bugs. The training for the studio and so on, because they have 2 separate tools. You do not do it with Unity or Magica Box. You have Vox Edit tool, and also they have a game maker. So this is how we create our assets. And when you have that opportunity, the ecosystem is quite unique and strong. And at least for us, when we ran our tests, that was the only place where we looked at. And also the support was quite nice, which is quite important for a game developer. You can reach all the documentation and know-how whenever you want. This is an advantage that is provided by Sandbox. Well, the system is based on no code, but there are tutorials and YouTube videos and GDDs and white papers. And we do not have live support, but of course you can reach anyone from the team, and we are trying to translate everything into Turkish, and since we have a large number of people employed, we are of course trying to localize everything as soon as possible. So I'd like to thank you all. We are signing off. Let me say a few words. I'd like to thank Arslan and his valuable guests. You can see that this is a whole different game. There are different models. We tried to talk about them. Hopefully it was useful and enjoyable for you. This is how we started, and we are going to have many more and in a different way. So see you next time.